I believe that one of the advantages that I have in the YouTube sphere is that I have the very best audience of anybody out there. I've looked at comments on other people's YouTube videos, and there's so many hecklers and people that are mean and asking ridiculous questions. And yeah, lots of folks get very good commenters as well, but I don't hardly get anybody that's mean or obnoxious or unkind. So thank you very much for being such a great audience. And from time to time, I do like to take a look at some of the questions and pick a few. These are somewhat at random because I wouldn't want you to ever to think that your idea, your thought, the question that you asked wasn't as important as something else. But these are questions that I felt that I could answer, that I could answer with some kind of clarity. That were useful and helpful, would be helpful to other people as well. So anyway, this is Randy Kirk. Hit like, hit subscribe. If you like the fact that from time to time I do answer questions, that hit the like button. Maybe if I got like more likes than usual, I could say, okay, maybe I need to do this more often than I've been doing it. Anyway, and then of course, hit notify. Quite frankly, it's almost Sunday morning, isn't it? I don't have a clue what I'm going to do tomorrow morning. I can tell you there will be another show later today that will be my news show, and there will be a show, of course, always on Sunday night, one of the most popular of the week, in fact, commonly the most popular, where we look at the financial week in advance. What do we have next week that would be important? Oh, CPI and PPI. Oh, yeah. Oh, those. Oh, they could cause some confusion. What the heck? All right, so yeah, and then you want to buy your Cybertruck. We'll be talking about Cybertruck in a minute. One of the questions I thought was pretty funny with regard to Cybertrucks. We'll talk about that one. And then join Patreon, because then you could become a sponsor. You could become a supporter. You could become a producer for the channel at only $5 a month and get the advantage of news when it breaks. When I see something I think is important, I put it up and do my commentary immediately. So let's take a look at some of these questions. All right. This is from Fractal Elf 7760. He says, I don't believe in just cameras, as Mr. Musk has allowed for their sole capability of capturing a visual field, but is only available under essentially ideal weather and environmental conditions during which the camera optics can perform to their maximum capability. But I've heard Tesla engineers say even this morning that they would not be able to work in morning dew sometimes, might create enough of a problem. So it goes on to say, the car can be operated by the owner if there's mountain dew or morning dew, but not with that capability engaged, the FSD. But what if the cameras had a wiper? Then the system would work. We could also use inference, as you noted in your commentary, to believe that neither shall the same system work in heavy fog. Even with a wiper, it might not work in heavy fog. And so something will be needed, like a dedicated heater, to continuously chase away the water, possibly with its own embedded fan to spread the warmth. Anyway, a final needed touch is for those times when so much grime has built up that wiping and heating will only make it worse. I refer to each camera also being outfitted with a washer as its own wash away the grime before the wiper dispatches remaining drops. All right, so you get the point. He then goes on to say all this might add like a couple of grand per car, but for some like robotaxis, it might be worth it. It might be valuable to do this. All right, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. He says, even our own eyes have warm tears and lids, and then we have hands to be able to wipe away, etc. So he's saying that this is something that needs to be considered. So I think there's a couple of thoughts. Number one, I believe I have not had this ever happen in the almost 3 years that we've owned our car. I don't know if it's happened. I'll have to ask my wife if it's ever happened to her. Not sure that we've ever had a situation where the car even said, oh, one of your lenses isn't working. Please let me know in the comments below if you've had very many situations where one or more of your lenses is not doing what it needs to do in order for you to be able to operate on full self-driving or on even the lower levels of safe driving using those cameras. Number two is that capability is there. And so if one or more are having a problem, then you can get out and take care of the wiping yourself. And that will happen, I guess, if you're flying down the freeway or going through a neighborhood and it can't see, it's going to let you know that there's an issue. So now we get into a robotaxi situation, though, where you don't want that to happen, or where you're asleep in the back of the car. My suggestion would be, this is just me guessing, is that what you have is you have 8 cameras. I think 4 of those are forward facing. So if one is not operational, but the other 3 are, and then you're going to get, some visibility from the other 3. You're going to get some, I think he mentioned inference. So the other 3 cameras are going to kind of make up some of the difference where this one can't see. Also, in those situations, your human eyes behind a windshield are not going to be seeing as visibly either, especially in the fog situation that he mentions, although your wiper is going to solve part of that. But I've been in plenty of fog situations where I could barely see at all. My understanding is that these cameras, with their capability, will actually be better in fog. Maybe they'll also be better. I don't know this. I'm saying maybe that these will also be better in some of these situations where he suggests. Anyway, great topic, I thought. Love to hear your comments below, and maybe we'll get some expert in to help us understand better. But I just haven't heard anybody anywhere on X or anyplace else say, oh my gosh, I was in my car the other day and I couldn't use FSD because of these weather concerns. All right, so let me know. Then we've got Steve Kudge, it's not Steve, STEVKUJ is his handle on YouTube. He says, why isn't Elon building battery and megapack factories all over the place if energy is nearing scarcity? And so then we have an answer to that from Rich B2229. He says, energy is not scarce, it's poorly distributed, especially for peak usage. All right, so very great questions. Yes, the energy situation right now, we certainly have plenty of energy to take care of all of the needs in the United States, and I think pretty much in all the Western countries, even second, the middle countries, maybe the poorest countries, there's, pockets where electricity is a problem, or they have days when they don't have electricity. We certainly know of those kind of situations. In general, though, yeah, plenty of electricity. You do have distribution issues. Now, are there problems coming? That'll be a separate problem that we'll answer in another question down below. But I think Elon, here you go. This is me. This is where I'm confused. It's like, okay, why isn't he building megapack factories as fast as he can? And that is the question I asked yesterday or Friday. I forget when that was. Yesterday was Friday. Anyway, it's like blowing my mind. I would think he would be building megapack factories. There's plenty of batteries, apparently. My best guess, okay, I've said this before, my best guess is that there is one limiting factor, and I think it has to do with some of the equipment that lifts these heavy finished packs off the floor, so to speak, and puts them onto a truck to be taken to ship. That this particular piece of equipment was the holdup in Lathrop. And if it was a holdup in Lathrop and they've just solved that apparently in October, then that could be the limiting factor for opening up additional factories around the world. That would be a very sophisticated and possibly one-use machine that's being produced. And so you've got to get your, as Elon says, in a car, you've got 10,000 items. If you're missing one, you're dead meat. Well, same thing with megapacks. I have a feeling that this is the number one. It's the one thing that's holding them up from being able to build these factories faster. If that is solved, and I'm sure that they're working on solving it, then we might see megapack factories popping up all over. So anyway, great question. Thank you for that question. Then we got Fractal Elf. Says, correct me if I'm wrong, but the big picture here is that the real inflation rate is still much higher than reported. Well, okay, no. Well, okay, so, I tend to be a cynic. Many of you probably are somewhat cynical with regard to reporting agencies, especially government reporting agencies, and whether they're getting the information right or wrong, et cetera. We certainly have heard lots of conversation about how late some of the information is. We're looking in the rearview mirror, in particular with regard to these inflation numbers. However, there are lots and lots and lots of ways to dig down into the inflation numbers, which is why I like Truflation, why I was so sad to see them make this massive change in a single day that really threw off their credibility in a certain way. It made them more credible that they're willing to say, look, we found more information that makes our information better. I still don't have an explanation for why the rent went up by from 0 to 2% to 2% per year in terms of increase. So I don't have an explanation for that. There's a couple of other things I'm still concerned about, but they dig into, so let's say for that, those rent figures or for home figures, they go to Zillow and to Redfin and to, I'm forgetting the other big one, doesn't come to me right now, but I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, so they go out and they're gathering this information from all these different places. Sure, that can be bad data too. And that data could have reasons why those people are purposely playing with the data. So the information can never be perfect. My guess would be, there was a headline the other day I really liked. It said, it's no longer about inflation, it's about the prices. And so what you have is, and Truflation is showing it now, what they call the aggregate change over the last 2 years is like, or 3 years, like 28% or something. So you went from something costing you $1 and now it cost you $1.28. And you look at that and you go, oh my gosh, inflation, inflation, inflation. And well, that already happened 6 months ago and it's still at $1.28. Maybe even it came down to $1.24, but compared to $1, it still is, you're hitting your head and going, what in the heck is going on? That's certainly true of things like airline prices. It's certainly true of things like room rent, the hotel rentals. It's certainly true of eating out. These prices went up crazy. They have not come back down much, if any. And so you still have sticker shock, even though maybe they are now flat or only going up at 2 or 3%. All right, so that I hope that answers that question. This is a long one. User JS1NQ3SB5W. All right, he says, thanks to you both. I think he's talking here about Larry. I have a question for both of you. How many bots will Tesla build in a year? Well, that's a huge question. I'm sure Larry and I might have different opinions on that. The question also is which year. So I still believe that they're building more than a few bots now. Okay, I don't know how many. It's only November 10th. So I have plenty of time to build hundreds by the end of this year. That's always been my number. My number was always 1,000. I changed it a while ago and said, look, if they build 100 or 200 or 300 or 500, I'm still happy. I'm thrilled. It still is kind of in the theory that I have that they would build a bunch of them, because why not? So they can train a bunch of them. And then all of the ones that are being trained are training each other. Elon just said 3 days ago that they're now being trained by video. Maybe they don't need to build a bunch of them for training. I still think they do. I still think they're going to want to be hands-on, seeing these bots do useful tasks where there's a human standing, watching them, interacting with them, and making sure that all those things are happening. So I think building lots of them on the order of hundreds would be something they would be doing right now. Maybe not, but one of my statements has always been, why wouldn't they? Now they've got hiring over 50 additional people in the engineering departments for Optimus, and most of those are for things like building the line and expanding the production to sell worldwide. I think that if they're not producing a lot now, they will be shortly. Now, again, I'm pretty much all by myself here, thinking that they're going to make thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands next year and start selling them or renting them to lots and lots of folks out there. I am maybe the only person who thinks that. I'm going to hold to my guns and we'll see who turns out to be right. Eventually, I would say tens of millions per year. There's my number, tens of millions at least per year, because why not? Once you're making them, you can make lots of them. And if the market is there, they're going to make them. All right, we've got Chris Beckwith, 6991 says, Cybertruck bottle opener looks like it will bend when opening a bottle, unless you're selling it as a novelty item. Oh, can I even reach one? Here we go. I can assure you, this is not going to bend. It's not going to bend no matter what you do to it. Not a novelty item. This thing is 3 inches thick stainless steel. I know many of you have heard me say that many times before. You can see the massive magnet on the back because this thing weighs 9 or something like 8 ounces, a half a pound. Okay, this is really, really heavy duty. So don't forget they're $25. Randy Kirk, you do PayPal /.me. Listen, a few folks, here's a question I get a lot. I don't have a credit card. I don't use PayPal. How else can I do this? You can write me a check. You can write a check, and you can send me a note on X if you want to. You could, my email is everywhere. It's randykirk77@gmail.com. So you can email me a picture if you want to of the check, front and back. That's another way you could do it. Just create a check, front and back, send it to me. You can mail it in the mail. If you send me a note to that email, I'll give you my home address and you can mail it to me. All right. So that's a few ways to do it. This is from Harry Chu 650. The strongest argument against organized labor is a stable and appreciating stock price. Musk needs to be a better steward of the company's stock price. He has been at his best when he's advocating for EV adoption, which hasn't been the case for some time. Several questions there. Number one, the strongest argument against organized labor for me is that they create stodginess. They create another layer that makes it difficult to innovate quickly. They stand in the way of now. Some of you guys are union members, and you might be mad at me for saying that. That's just look. I'm the owner. All right, so I never wanted a union. Never had a union. My dad, I think I told you before, lost his company because lost his job because one of his jobs because his company went out of business because the union drove him out of business. Literally, they said, we can't pay these prices or we'll have to close. The union said, too bad, and they closed. And it was a big company. It was called Maloney Electric. They were manufacturing transformers, which now we need. So if Maloney Electric was still out there making transformers, we'd have more of them. Anyway, I think that Elon is a good steward of the stock price because of what he's created. That's what matters. I think he has some responsibility with regard to the stock price itself on any given day, week, or month or year, but not much. He has shown several times a willingness to go in and say the stock price is too high. And I think that he is not terribly concerned about short-term investors, people who are day traders, or who even trade by the month of the year. He is very interested, very, very interested, seems to very much care about those who are investors for the long term. And those people are going to be paid, have already been paid handsomely. There's like no company. It's one of the, top few companies in history in terms of return on investment over the last 10 years. Crazy numbers. Okay. Next one is Teresa YL7ZC says, one point to clarify is the wealthy do save up enough to buy their next assets. They do not save as a means of building wealth or as a retirement strategy. Well, yeah, that's absolutely right, Teresa. There's no question. This is what I've been really trying to talk about. Once again, I'm all by myself in the world, maybe right now. No, okay. There's a couple of people out there, but not many, that are talking about this massive change in demography. Nobody cares about demographics. Elon, who cares a lot about demographics with regard to not doing enough babies and not replacing the population fast enough, and that has its own impact, multiple impacts, including in terms of how the wealth is distributed, how money is distributed, and where the old people, how their lives are going to be supported by young people when there's not enough of them to do that. And countries like Japan and other places that are going downhill because of their demography. But nobody's talking about the fact that half of the wealth is now in the hands of people over 55, and that the seniors are making as much money per year, all things considered, as 45-year-olds or 55-year-olds. These retired people have as much income. That's the first time in history, probably of the world, that this has been true. It impacts everything. I don't spend my money the same way I did when I was 45 or 50. I just don't. And it changes everything about how you're spending your money. And a lot of it, I've said before, a lot of it is going into the next generation is going to inherit one of these days, because we've already told them, this stuff is yours. This house is yours. It's not, I'm not going to sell it ever. And it's going to be yours. Okay. Anyway, yes, you are 100% right, Teresa. Huge. The fact that nobody is talking about this in any great depth blows my mind. Okay. This is AVI David 9237 says, this is on Friday night. He's responding when Larry and I were on. He says, did I just tune in to a bizarro world? Randy and Larry have flipped positions. I noticed it too. David, I don't know exactly what your name is because I can't pick it out here, but AVI David. Anyway, what happened was if you go back and take a look at Friday night show and watch the first 10 or 15 minutes, because basically I'm all doom and gloom and the world is coming to an end. And Larry is the one that's going, oh no, Randy, it's all going to be fine. And for the first 10 minutes, I was thinking, oh my gosh, everybody's going to wonder, what did these guys plan this in advance to switch positions? Now, we didn't change any of our positions. We still held on to our positions, but it was hilarious to see that I came in with, and I knew that I was doing this. Because there was a lot of stuff last week. As much as the Tesla news was good, except for that stupid HSBC thing, the economic news and the inflation news and all the rest of that stuff, it was a good week. So a rough week. There was a lot of rough stuff going on last week, and I was reporting on it. And Larry was like, oh no, Randy. So anyway, see, you can't be sure how Larry and I are going to do this in the future. So Monday night, you want to hit notify because you want to be sure that you are always on when Larry is co-anchoring, which is the bookends, Monday night and Friday night. Who knows, could have him on in the middle of the week too, if there's something that's specifically where I think he can be a great help. All right, hit like, hit subscribe, hit notify. Buy your Cybertruck bottle opener that is indeed tough. And it's not just a novelty item. It's a gorgeous thing. Comes in camo. Please let me know whether you want camo or stainless when you place your order. You can do it by writing a check and sending it to my email, which I gave you earlier. All the information is down below. And of course, join Patreon, where you could get one of these for free if you choose. Okay, that's it. That's all I got for you. It has been great talking to you. Don't forget, I'll be back in about 3 or 4 hours with today's news.